Today on Plain Display, we'll be reviewing none other than the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, baby. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, we only really got WWF on television. We never really got NWA, so I didn't really know who Ric Flair was. I've seen pictures of him before, but I've heard of Dusty Rhodes as a kid. And everybody talked about, like my aunts and uncles would talk about how great of a wrestler he was. And then when he came to the WWF, he looked like this, guys. He was just an old fat man. I thought to myself, oh man, this got to be a joke. This guy can't be any good. Not only was he great, but he was a good talker, and he won me over. And Mattel pays tribute to him in the classic style with the polka dots here from WrestleMania 6 against the Macho King Randy Savage. So let's go ahead and open this up and let's see what's inside. And out of all the figures from the Mean Gene Build-A-Figure set, this was the most difficult to find in the wild, though. I was so happy to get, though. The picture right here looks amazing. That's probably his best personality is. He's just more or less got a smile on his face, and he's just such a memorable character, though. On the back, though, just some stats about him. You know, he's born a plumber's son right here. Great picture right here. I think this is WrestleMania 6. It's at the end of the match where he stole Macho King's scepter. But the rest of the Build-A-Figures in the set that we've already covered, I think the Macho King's the last one. So let's go ahead and open it up. And I just want to say, wow. I mean, they did a really cool job. This feels like a really good, solid figure. They got his dimensions right as far as, like I said before, he's a bigger guy. I mean, he's got a gut on him, but he can whoop some butt, man. The expression on his face, I'm kind of a little bit hit and miss with. It's basically him running his mouth, but it also would work pretty good if he's trying to sell a move. So that works pretty decent, though. I would kind of almost like a neutral face for him, but we didn't really get in the set. Really not that huge of an issue, though. The soft goods thing right here, it comes right off, which is great, because the thing about Dusty, though, I always remember on him, was he always had this mark on his stomach. A really cool feature they added to this figure, though, or I should say didn't add, was the fact he's only got one elbow guard. I mean, his finishing move was the bionic elbow, so he always had kind of one elbow free. Sometimes he didn't have an elbow pad on both, but I always remember him just really with the one elbow pad 90% of the time. Now, there are a few manufacturer errors on this figure, though. There's this little line that goes through his left knee pad. Also, a little missing mark right here on the polka dots. I knew there'd be a few of them, though, but some of them are really bad. Like this one right here on his butt. He's got this big one that's all worn off, though. Not too bad. If you want to fix it yourself, it's not a bad issue, though, but you usually expect, for an elite figure, a little bit better build quality out of the factory that way. Now, the American Dream does come with a lot of hand accessories, though. He came out of the package with his left hand, pointing his index finger, and so they had to add another one too for his right hand, though. They also gave him another set of hands to grip and also carry that all-important microphone. I mean, Dusty Rhodes is one of the best promo makers of his time. Still is, I think. And easily probably one of the most important things for this figure is a set of fists, though. The only problem, though, this fist right here on the left-hand side is very, very loose, but this one right here is really, really tight, though. I don't know what's really causing that, though, but his punches, though, like when he just kind of do little jabs here and there, just really would get the crowd fired up. I don't know why, but it just worked for him. For the articulation on the American Dream, it's all right, though. It's not great, but let's get into it, though. The head moves pretty decent, though. It's got a little bit of forward and back, a little bit side to side. Side to side's a little tricky. It's a little stiff, but it still works, though. The arms are great, though. I mean, the shoulder, elbow, everything like that work well with it, and that's great because that's his bread and butter moves right there. You know, he's going to have the bionic elbow, and you can pull his finisher off, which is great for any articulation. If you got a figure where you can't do the finisher, it's a huge issue, especially if you have a fake fed, or even if you're just posing them for that matter. The torso does move back and forth, though, so you got a little movement here. The hips, though, that's where everything's kind of really, they're almost like in a fixed position, though. They're not really that great, though. The knee does bend, but the fact that the knee guards right here are really, really tight, it doesn't bend a whole lot, though. But the boots, on the other hand, do bend pretty decent, though. So there is some articulation in the boots, but for the most part, it's going to kind of hinder some movement, though. And the standability is pretty decent, though. I mean, 3 out of 4 times you stand this figure up, it's going to hold its place, so that's good. So my final review for the American Dream Dusty Rhodes is this. The detail on it's very good, though. The proportion of his body is very similar to what he was as a wrestler. He wasn't really an in-shape guy. He was just a guy who was over with a lot of the fans, which is great. My only problem I do have with the figure, though, the face sculpt is really cool. I mean, it does represent his personality, though, but they should have gave him more of a neutral expression on his face. I wish they would have added it. I mean, I could have not really need an extra set of hands with this figure and just would have had an extra head sculpt that was more neutral expression, which would have been great. The biggest problem, though, I do have is, and that's just with the manufacturing, is how the polka dots are a little not right on par with everything, though. So they're a little scratched up. You can fix them if you want, and for the head sculpt, you can easily get another head sculpt for this figure too if you'd like to, though. But for the fact it came from Mattel with the little issues here and there, I'm not a super big fan of the head sculpt. I'm going to put this figure at an 8.5 out of 10. Still a respectable score, but all in all, I just wish it would have got a neutral face. And now for the posability, though. For this figure, though, there's not a lot of articulation, like I mentioned before, inside the hips and lower part of them, though. So you're not going to be able to put him in a figure four, but for the most part, a lot of other figures, when you try to put him in a figure four, it doesn't really work that well. But he is a bigger guy, and at the time, he wasn't really the fastest guy in the ring. But he was a decent brawler. All of his finishing moves were up top with his upper torso as far as bionic elbow is concerned. And he's going to pose well with that, too. And for the fun factor, I'm going to ask you guys this question. Is this a Dusty Rhodes that you grew up liking, though? In all honesty, though. Because when he's with the NWA, he had a cooler look. I mean, he was on par with fashion like Ric Flair was, man. He looked really awesome, though. But this, like I said before, this is Dusty Rhodes I first introduced to. The first Dusty Rhodes I became a huge fan of. This is Dusty Rhodes I want in my collection. So for the fun factor, though, nostalgia has to play into it, though. Because if you want an old school Dusty Rhodes figure, they're out there. Get that one. But if you remember him from the 90s and you just remember him from the WWF area and you like the polka dots, it brings back a lot of fun, then the fun factor is there, though. I have to give the fun factor an 8.75 out of 10, mostly because I like to collect those classic figures from that era. And with that, he's going to fit in with these old matches that I got going on. Can't wait to fight him against Macho Man King Randy Savage, who's coming up in the next video. But still, what an amazing figure. And that is it, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. My apologies for not putting out videos in the last couple of days. What happened was I had a company come over. This whole area right here is actually a guest bedroom for when people come out of town and they want to spend the night. So he was here for a long time. A good friend of mine. He's going through some problems right now. So just the best time whenever you're going through hard times is talk to a good friend, man. That always will make you feel 100 times better. And I hope this video will make you guys feel better too if you guys are going through hard times. If you guys like to, go ahead and feel free to leave a comment down below. I will always answer back. Please like and subscribe. And as always, though, just take care of each other. Be cool to one another. Party on.